Hello, folks. I am now recording my video for September the 11th, 2017. I wrote the blurb some time ago, actually probably 4 to 5 o'clock this morning. It's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I've allowed some time to pass so I could keep my eye on the progress of the hurricane. And it's now on the west coast of Florida, around Naples, Florida. Anyway, let me read the blurb and then I'll go into some commentary based on the title and the blurb. The title I wrote this morning was, "Are the Cabal Criminals Pulling Out All Stops?" There are still people who believe the lies we've been told by mainstream media news, at least since the end of World War II. Step by step, they have been perfecting the mastering of weather modification, in addition to their control of world finances through the criminal Federal Reserve System. Of course, BRICS threatens that control, as well as increased awakening within the population, because their controlled spy network, called the Internet, has been used by those of us exposing levels of truth. This has been going on in third world countries for decades, and in the US, they have been causing drought in the West and now massive storms in the East. My private prayers have become periods of one-sided arguments with God, calling for divine intervention. This would be meaningless if not for my personal history of dedication. Will there be a kingdom of heaven on earth? Not if the criminals have their way. Indeed, I, like many others here in Florida, have been fixated on the tracking of this storm. And ironically, the winds, even right near the eye of the storm over, as I said, by Naples, Florida right now, the winds are just under hurricane speed. They're in gale speed, in other words. Now, there might be gusts that make it to hurricane level, but at only level 1. It's not, they were threatening this to be a Category 7 hurricane. Now, Category 7 doesn't even exist. It only goes up to 5. But they were predicting storms with gusts maybe even over 200 miles an hour, and certainly 150, 160, 170, 180 mile an hour winds. That's what they were predicting. Now, I want to suggest that it's possible, and again, it's a possibility, that all of us that have been praying have actually managed to diminish the intensity of this storm. Is that true? I don't know if it is or not, but I'm looking. I've been continually throughout the day and yesterday, and as this storm was approaching, I've been keeping my eye not on the mainstream news, because again, the mainstream news tells lies. They are not in the business of properly informing us. They are in the business of serving their masters, and their masters are malevolent beings who have a vested interest in reducing the world's population and in creating as much mayhem and as much confusion and as much fear as possible. And there are even Christians that are getting on, and one of them on my previous video lambasted me as a false prophet because I'm trying to diminish fear, and he sees the fear as a good thing that gets people to repent and turn to the Christian God. Well, the Christian God may have some good points, and all religions have good points. And again, I grew up reading the Bible through every year till I was in my mid-30s, folks, till I was in my mid-30s. And I still read it even after that, but I wasn't reading it through. I was reading a lot of other things, the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads, and I was starting to study more Eastern religions and Buddhism and even Islam. I mean, I had, as I've said before, I've had the imam of the local congregation here in Melbourne come to my home when I was having meetings in my home and give lectures, much to the chagrin of some of the people in my metaphysical group, that though they claim to be open-minded and loving, they draw the line at Islam, because Islam has been so demonized in Western culture that it's pathetic. There are good people in all religions, people that love whatever God is, whatever the creator is. There are people that love God in all religions. There are sincere, loving, kind, generous people. There are people in all races that reach out, especially in time of need, and help others. This goes on, and many, even in the elite establishment, many are waking up, and some are courageous enough to blow the whistle publicly that we have a cadre of human beings or demons, whatever you want to call them, that are in control and pulling the strings of a malevolent agenda. And the hurricanes are part of that malevolent agenda. Now, in the Western United States right now, there's tremendous forest fires because they've created drought in the western part of the United States, and now, again, hurricanes, but they've supposedly held the hurricanes back from their greatest intensity in this part of the world for some time, supposedly. All of this is it's subjective interpretation, folks. I'm not saying it's absolute truth. I'm just saying there's information out there. If you'll get off of the TV set and out of the mainstream media, the New York Times and all of the other, the Washington Post and all of the other mainstream publications, those publications don't generally allow the truth to be told. And if they do, they color it in a certain way so that it's laughed at and mocked, not taken seriously, because they don't want you to take anything that's other than their agenda seriously. They only want their agenda to be held in high esteem, not anything that contradicts it. I talked about the BRICS nations in my blurb. This is what a big threat to them, because the BRICS nations are establishing a monetary system based on actual value of commodities that are tangible, not Federal Reserve notes, which are based on paper. A $100 bill costs the same amount of money to print as a $1 bill, folks. Do you understand that? There's no difference in value because it's not backed by something more, because there's a couple of zeros after the one. This is all a scam, folks, that we've been living in. And we need to wake up. We need to have the divine intervention, and part of the divine intervention could be helping us to awake. But we need to be able to let go of the religious chains that have bound us in making us think that our truth is somehow superior to somebody else's truth, when all they are is neither of them are true. They are only subjective interpretations of something. They are not truth. It took me a long time to get that through my head, that what I was reading when I was reading the Bible through cover to cover was not truth. It was presented as if it were truth, but it's simply an opinion. And because the people that have been in charge have controlled the creation of the Bible, it has been guided and interpreted differently than that which would liberate us and set us free, that which would help us to love one another instead of fighting over which religion is right. Folks, we need to wake up. And my private prayers are calling on God to help us awaken so that we can throw off the shackles that have held us in bondage for so long, and that we can finally be free. And only by knowing the truth that we are all loved and we are all capable of loving. That is the truth that will set us free. Thank you for listening, and namaste.